Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Face the Truth. Man, today was an awesome episode for me personally. I've been a huge fan of Drew Struzan for quite a long time, ever since I was a little kid, to be honest. All the way back from E.T., The Goonies, Police Academy, man, of course Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and on and on and on. So many just epic movie posters and illustrations that had an impact on me in my life as an illustrator, even before I even understood what illustration was. Like when I first saw the E.T. poster or the Muppets or anything, those posters when I was a kid, I never thought about the behind the scenes of what it was like creating those, or that an artist actually had to work on sketches and ideas and get things approved from art directors and all that. None of that went through my mind. I just saw it as this epic image that just captured the imagination of this young kid, and it like when you look at the Hook movie poster, for example, it just has this epic feeling. It just captures the essence and feeling of that movie. Where the movie and the poster are like one thing, if that makes sense. Anyways, the artwork is amazing, from the Green Mile to Star Wars to the Harry Potter, Blade Runner, Hellboy. I mean, so many just amazing and epic movies and posters that he's created, and not even just that, but advertisements and book covers and just on and on and on. Very honored that he's a Usual Gang of Idiots. He did a Mad cover as well, so it's very cool to share that honor with him. Anyways, he's one of those artists that I have looked up to for a long time, and when I found out I had the opportunity to talk with him, I just had to do it. So very excited to talk to him. Our talk went well. He's just such a humble, down-to-earth guy. And it was really, really cool to be able to spend some time hanging out with him. And anyways, hope you all enjoy. And without further ado, please welcome Mr. Drew Struzan. Looks like we're rolling. So I want to jump in right away and just say that this is a huge honor for me to be able to talk with you. It's kind of interesting. I was asked to be a judge this year at the Society of Illustrators West, which was a big honor for me as an illustrator. I'm like, wow, they want me to judge this? Okay, that's weird. And then I saw that you were. Yeah. And then I saw you were one of the judges, and I was like, "What? Get out of here! That's crazy." So, I just was like blown away that I'm in the company of you with this, and it's a huge honor. So I reached out to them. I said, "Hey, I'd love to talk to this guy on my podcast, because I mean he's been a huge influence of mine, and it's amazing." I was thinking about it, and I mean, first of all, this is like bigger than talking to the Pope for me, okay? And I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all. I'm just saying, you're like one of those guys that I have been looking up to since I was a kid. I remember even your Mad cover, because I'm a big Mad magazine guy, and thinking back to my childhood with E.T. and everything. And so some of my first illustration that I ever can remember as a young kid is your work, going along with my favorite movies. So I just want to say, such an honor, man, to talk with you, and your work is just incredible. So thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Well, your work is incredible as well.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I said this before you started recording, but it's the most beautiful caricature work I've ever seen.
Wow, thanks, man. So, I appreciate that.
So I appreciate we're on the same
Well, that's that means a lot because you know, I was telling my 13-year-old daughter how I'm so excited to talk with Drew today, and she's like, "Who is that again?" I explained like, all these movie posters and stuff, and she's like, "Oh wow," and I was trying to explain to her the Police Academy movies because she hasn't seen those, and those movie posters have like they burned a memory into my mind just because just like most of your movie posters, what they do is they just feel like they're a part of the movie. There's like a marriage there where there's no separation. It's like that represents that movie sometimes better, I think, than some of the movies. And when I remember those Police Academy posters, like I remember like renting those movies back when you went to a video store and rented movies, and asking my dad to rent those just because of the cover. And I think that was around the time I was heavily getting influenced by Mad Magazine as well. So there was a lot of that humor that you put into that, and the character is just amazing. So it's and like what I said to you before we started recording, normally what I do on my podcast is just a wherever the conversation leads, and I'm totally comfortable with doing that as well. But because I have questions about your work and your technique, where a lot of artists out there, I know there's not much mystery to certain kinds of painting techniques and different things, and there's a lot about your work that I'm like, I still feel confused. What's going on? How is he doing this? Like there's certain techniques and different things, but also just questions about. I'm curious about with composition and deadlines and stuff because I, as an illustrator, still deal with those things. A lot of my listeners are artists and illustrators. So some of the questions I have, I'm just going to read them to you because I want to make sure I get them just right. If you don't mind.
Well, I listened to your podcast, and you got a lot to say, and you say it well, and it's just the opposite of me. The best talking I do is with paint and pencil.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's no. It's interesting. I don't know if I was so excited. I reached out to your wife and she said that you'd be interested in doing this, and just around that time, all of a sudden, my wife, we had to go in for emergency C-section. Ooh. And so the baby was supposed to be born a couple days ago, but she was born on the 17th. Everything worked out fine, but it was kind of a scary, like, we have to do this very quickly kind of a thing.
Yes.
But it's interesting because I wanted to rewatch the documentary about you. That I watched it like a while ago, and I thought, you know what, I'm like literally up all night with this newborn baby, and so I put it on my iPad.
So how's the baby?
And watching it. Oh, she's great. She's awesome.
Okay.
She's
right.
Girl number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah, girl number 4.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I have a baby too. He's 52 years old, and
that's awesome, man. Yeah, I have my oldest is almost 17, and then I have a 13-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and then the new baby. So, so we're pretty packed here.
Well, I see why you work now. That's why I work, was to support the family.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing I was gonna say is it's really cool, like rewatching that and hearing your early struggles when you and your wife met, and how it was in the early days when you were getting going and first doing the record illustration for record companies, and it was really cool to hear that realistic side of things, because most of us artists know, like, it's not it's for me, I have like really, really good years, and then I have a really shitty year, and then all of a sudden it's like things are going great, and I feel like I have nothing to worry about. And then all of a sudden it's coronavirus and like, so
that's a good story.
yeah. But it's it's encouraging though, just to see, it's really cool to see that video again, and just to see, that you are a real person, again, it's weird because, you know, there's certain artists that I have looked up through for the years and everything. But it's interesting, I think, because I've known of your work ever since I was such a little kid, that it almost seems like not real in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense. Just because it seems like such a part of when I think back to my early days, or just even E.T., The Goonies, like so much of my childhood, like I wasn't necessarily thinking about the artwork as artwork. It was just, oh, that's the Goonies movie, and that was just a part of it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until
supposed to do.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome because, now of course I look back and I'm like, oh man, he actually had to think about this, and he actually had to plan and sketch and do all these different things that I never thought about before, So it's pretty cool. So anyways, if anyone has not seen that, you definitely need to watch it because it's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you. I'm done.
There you go. But anyways, it was really cool being in the hospital with the newborn baby and just watching this stuff, and had to have the volume all low and everything, but just because for me, I never stop as an artist. I'm always trying to think about what's next, what I'm working on. So, I'm like doing some sketches, a little bit of doodles in the hospital, and then watching this, preparing to talk with you about stuff. So it's pretty cool that it's finally come to the face to face with Mr. Struzan. It's awesome.
I'm just another human being trying to get along. That's all.
Oh, I know. That's what I appreciate about, like I said, about the documentary, is that was, you've got a real down to earth about you, which I really appreciate. One of the things that cracked me up is, I forget what movie it was. I think it was like a Stephen King movie, and how the actor couldn't get the technique down about how to paint like you.
Yeah, Thomas.
I just love that you were so, because that just reminds me of myself a little bit, where it's like, hey, you're not you're not representing right here. That's not how we do it, And I just thought that was so funny, like because it really, most people wouldn't get it. Most people aren't artists and illustrators, or they're just, oh, that guy's painting happy trees or whatever it is. But and it was only a short scene in the movie, and I love that, like, he worked so hard to get it right, and you were still like, nah, it's not right.
Well, Thomas is a very nice person too, so
yeah,
we get along really well, and he did his best he could. There was a guy on the set that fancying himself as an artist too, and he says, no, that's not how we do it, and he changed everything I told Thomas to how I do it.
Yes.
This screwed it up.
It is pretty funny. Didn't get it right, buddy. Yeah. No, it is interesting because, even that's one thing is, like, even as artists, who watch you, on your videos that you've done, it's still interesting, just seeing your technique. And that was, like, actually one of my questions I had. I don't know, it's in my list somewhere, but basically about your technique is that you know what, I'm going to save it for later because I don't want to mess up the question. I'll just read you what I have so far so we can kind of go through some things. But basically, your posters and your work is known for being epic and having, like, a lot of this in, like, epic lighting, the composition, but also having multiple characters in various poses. And I know from my experience as an illustrator that the more characters you add to an illustration, the more tricky it can be, because you're now dealing with, several different references. Your main characters may have different lighting from different sources, and yet you have to bring them all together to make one cohesive image so that the lighting all feels the same, the characters all feel the same. And so my question was basically, how do you go about painting your characters so that they feel cohesive and together under, one roof, so to speak? Same place, same time, same lighting, because that can be kind of crazy sometimes when you have to use a picture from one guy with lighting hit him from this direction, and and these are the references that you have to work with, if that makes sense.
Well, the longer you talk, the more sense you make. It's funny because I'm retired.
Yeah.
And I haven't drawn a picture for a movie in a number of years now. So everybody's trying to copy what I do.
Yeah.
And the industry is looking at them now differently than they looked at me. Because you're saying you see all these number of people in the poster, and I see that's what other people are trying to imitate, because the industry has changed and they want to see everything in the poster. Well, then you see nothing. So if you go back and look at my posters, they're not all like that.
Yeah.
You may be being deceived by the people trying to imitate what I do and what the studios are telling them they want, but those aren't my posters.
Yeah.
Posters are simple. They're direct, and they say what the movie is saying. I mean, like I'm really was exceptionally blessed to get to meet all the directors for the movies I worked on. I mean, I know George Lucas, I know Steven Spielberg, I know, and I talk to them, and I hear what they have to say about their work. And then when I hear that, I see it in my head about their personalities and what they want people to believe about their movies. And then I have the ability to paint what I hear them saying.
Yeah. Okay.
How they feel about their work. Well, they want other people that come to see the movies to feel what they were feeling, the directors were feeling when they were making their movies.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that, I run out of words very quickly.
Oh, that's okay. No, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but more what and believe me, I've noticed a lot of recent posters where I've noticed like, oh, they're trying to do a Drew Struzan poster there. It's like really very obvious. But what I'm talking about more is from an illustrator's perspective of when you have more than one character to illustrate on an image, but you have to use several different references in order to draw and paint them.
Yeah.
How did you go about trying to make them feel like they're all in the same setting, the same kind of lighting? Because that's what it seems to be. I mean, I know what I do.
How do you do that then?
I was just curious about you because okay, maybe tell me if I'm wrong. When I see your work, I can look at one of your paintings and I'm like, okay, this painting it's all a warm palette, and he's all sticking with warm tones for this whole thing, and probably some of the references of some of the celebrities you have to paint aren't as good as references as others. I'm not sure what movie companies provided you with, but I just imagine that you're using some kind of a maybe limited palette so that you can keep a harmony within your work, which is sort of how I would go about it, because I have to do that. I have to use a lot of different references with very different lighting and then try to paint everyone together so they feel like they're in the same place. So does that sound familiar or? I think it's tricky.
Excuse me, but no.
Okay. All right, man.
I hear that what you're saying that you
Mhm.
do the business is still the business I was working in.
Yeah.
They still provided me with uh, photos, usually black and white ones, uh,
Okay.
to work from. And most of the time, I didn't get hardly anything at all. I mean,
Mm.
it reminds me of when I was the first work I did with Indiana Jones. The only thing that I had was about a 3-line synopsis of what the film is about
Mm.
and one picture of Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all I had. So I had to make up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess I made it up so well that I did every movie that Harrison did for Indiana Jones, you know.
Yeah.
But I met him once and he was really nice.
That's good.
What was I going to say? I'm losing my mind. I'm really old, so I apologize because
don't worry about it. No, it's fine. I'm just, I like to look
well,
at.
I know what I was going to say.
Okay.
When I met him, he said, "Thank you,
Yeah.
for making me look so good,"
Yeah.
because he knew. He said, "Thanks for the bod," because when I had worked on Indiana Jones, I had no reference material except maybe a picture of his face. But I painted a whole body of Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
So guess who was from here up was Harrison Ford. From here down is me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I did the posing. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't have any reference material.
Wow. Okay. So, so basically, what you're saying too is like with you. I mean, I guess what I'm curious about is like, do you set up a palette? Like, do you like set up specific palettes of color that do you like to work with, or do you just kind of just paint by feeling and just go with the flow to because there's a lot of harmony, obviously, what I'm seeing within your work with the
Yes,
color.
it's the latter. It's I want the painting to be a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not switching around for, on anything. I decide what the palette should be, how the movie feels, what the director felt,
Mm-hmm.
and I paint to that feeling,
Yeah. Okay.
the way they made me feel, and how they were feeling about their movie. So I don't talk a lot. I do feel a lot.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about it, man. It's all good. It's really cool just to be able to talk to you about that stuff. I
Well,
just always wondered about
that's all
that.
I've done.
Yeah.
Like I can explain myself like I often do, is that I've always been an artist.
Hmm.
Always. When I wanted a drink of water as a kid and I couldn't talk, I would draw a glass and water running into it out of the faucet and hand it to my mother and because before I could talk. And then she'd know what I wanted and she'd give me a glass of water. And that's kind of how I live. I don't explain myself a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's difficult for me to do that because
Yeah.
most of what I think is what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
That's
not
really
a good
cool though.
nerd.
No. This is great. That's brings me to another question that I wrote down was when you're about to do one of these posters. and you have a talk with George Lucas or Spielberg, and I'm sure you have like a meeting where you're talking about sort of what they're thinking they would like to see. What's your process from there? Are you thinking already compositionally in your mind, like certain images popping up, and then from there you just start sketching, or do they have something very specific already that you have to work from, or can you be more creative with it?
There's 4 different things you're asking me.
Sorry. Sorry. Okay, I'll start with the first one. So basically, when you have like a meeting with someone like George Lucas and he wants you to do a poster, is your starting point usually just with what pops into your mind of images right away? You just start thinking about it and start doodling those ideas?
That's very close to how it works. You can't, like, okay, with George, what I did, he lives up in, I forget the name of the, where he lived. San Rafael.
Oh, okay.
And I live like Hollywood now.
Oh, okay.
So I would drive up to San Rafael and he'd play the movie for me. So I would see exactly what the movie is, because there it is. And I could see the color scheme and
okay.
feels and everything. And I would walk out of the screening room knowing exactly what he needed,
Yeah.
And in every Star Wars movie had a different flavor and a different look. And that's how George would treat me, is he would show me the movie.
Okay.
And he never would ask or have an opinion about what I was doing or was going to doing. That's stupid. Going to do.
That's all right.
So I'd paint the picture and that would be it. He would do it. There it is.
Yeah.
That's the movie. It changed when he sold off Star Wars to Disney.
Disney, yeah.
Because then they wanted, like the rest of the studios do, to tell me what they're thinking and what they want and what they believed. And it's like, so it was very hard to change back to what it was 50 years ago, to try and explain to them that that's not how I work. I don't do what you tell me. I do what I want.
Yeah.
Because I have an aesthetic in my composition, in my color, my painting, my feelings. It was.
It's
the kitty's talking to me.
Oh, okay. It's frustrating. Maybe almost a year ago, actually. Now, I was asked to do a movie poster, and it was a test to see if they like it enough, they'll pitch it, and possibly it will be the movie poster. So I was already a little discouraged to begin with, because didn't feel like, this is, we'll see what happens with this, but also they weren't paying very, very well. This is just a test. If it gets picked up, then we'll pay you more for it. But then they also just sent me all the elements exactly how they want it on the poster.
Yeah.
And they're like, just paint that. And so it's like, it just felt so like, okay, I guess I'm just painting exactly what you already created, by, and it just felt very stagnant and like boring and not necessarily how I would have wanted to compose it. But also, they didn't share anything with the movie with me. So I had no idea what the movie was really about or the feeling of the movie. And so it just seems so disconnected. How am I supposed to paint something that's going to represent this movie if I don't know anything about the movie?
Exactly.
It's so stupid.
Well, that you're in the position I was in when I first started working for the movie for movies.
Yeah.
You know, I would meet together with a dozen people, and everybody had their own opinion, you know.
Yeah.
And I very quickly learned not to listen to their opinions because it was influencing what I felt about it.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But close to the end of when I was working with Guillermo del Toro,
Yeah.
and I forget the name of the movie now.
Was it the Pan's Labyrinth one?
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, I know that poster is awesome.
Well, what happened is he filmed the movie in Europe, and when he came home, he played the movie for me and my wife, just singularly for him, you know.
Yeah.
And when we were done watching the movie, he asked me if there's anything that I didn't understand with the movie. And we said, well, just one thing, because it was all in Spanish. We understood all the relationships. We understood everything. Yeah. We just didn't understand the girl and the man. What is their relationship? And he says, oh, that's, well, I forget now what it was.
Oh, their brother.
Her brother, yeah. He said, oh, okay, that's okay. He says, well, what do you think? Well, I got it. He said, well, I'll come over to your house tomorrow because I have some ideas and I'll show you. And I says, well, I have an idea, as I always did, of what it should be. So he showed up the next day and he says, well, you want to show me your idea or let me show you mine? And he says, no, let me show you what I think. Yeah. So I drew like a little, I mean, I don't ever do this, just a little sketch about that big, 4x5. And it's exactly what he wanted. He says, that's it, paint it.
That's awesome. See, that's great.
He was so nice. I had a good relationship with all the people I've worked with.
Yeah.
And if I could tell them what I was thinking and doing, they always loved it. Yeah. So it was a beautiful 50 years of painting and making people happy.
Oh yeah, man. That's one thing I think is so fantastic about what you do is like you'll go from a movie, again, back to my childhood, like Hook. I love that movie, but that poster was so much a part of that movie that I can't think about the movie without that. And it's such an epic poster. All the characters developed just perfectly, captures the feeling. And then you do a Muppet poster, which is like, wait a minute, he could draw Muppets too, Of course you can, obviously. But I love that, like, it was you were so diverse with basically any kind of thing that was thrown your way. You were able to capture it, capture that feeling, and it's really, for me as an illustrator, is very inspiring. And obviously, you have such a distinct style, which I think is great, because it's so tempting for an illustrator to look at your work and go, okay, I'm so inspired by this, and I want to try to do, movie posters. But you've done so many, and you've covered so much ground that you've kind of done it all. So it's really hard to do a movie poster as an illustrator and not look like you're ripping off Drew Struzan. So it's pretty awesome accomplishment, I think.
Well, that's very generous of you too.
Well, it's just funny because for example, I can't even think of, I don't remember the artist's name. He's a really talented artist, but he did like the Stranger Things posters, advertisements and all that kind of stuff. And I think he actually drew everything on the iPad, if I remember correctly. And but when I first saw that, I'm like, wow, it's really cool looking. But that's very Drew Struzan. That's just, you can't get away from it, And there was another poster recently, the same thing. It was like a superhero poster, and same thing. I'm like, oh, that looks like a Drew Struzan. It's like you can't it's the way they compose it, and you know. So you've done it all. So
Well, I haven't looked at any movie posters since I stopped, so I wouldn't know.
that's funny. Well, the thing is that's what I miss is there's not very much illustration anymore when it comes to movie posters. It's rare anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's so.
Well, when I saw what my job had become was all being done on the computer and was going to be done on the computer because of their desires, their payment schedules, their timing, and blah, blah, blah. I could see the future of what I was doing had a dead end coming. So that's when I decided to quit.
Yeah.
It's just because they're not going to want what I do anymore. So the last pictures I painted were for How to Train Your Dragon for Dean, and Dean would come over every day, and he loved the triptych I did for Star Wars. So when he finished his 3 movies, he said, I would like a triptych like you did for Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I painted those were the last 3 paintings I did for a movie. And of course he loved them, and he came over every day, and I told him why I was doing what I was doing, and he was getting new insight onto what he did.
Yeah.
Because
that's awesome.
He felt he had, all the directors have great feeling for their movies, and he was especially wanted to talk to the audience and to make people love what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So I would interpret, excuse me.
That's all right.
What he was doing, and it wasn't always what he said he was doing, and then he changed what he thought about what he did. So I had good relationships with all the directors, because
that's incredible. You basically saw something and pulled something else out that he didn't even realize was there, basically.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How long would you usually get to do a poster from beginning to end?
Well, that's another business question. There was one, like, I got a call from the studio, it was like at 9 o'clock at night, and they said, had you ever seen, no, I don't remember the name of the movie, The Thing from the 50s.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was alive then. So they said, well, if you have the time, we'd like you to do the poster. We'd like it for tomorrow. No information.
Yeah.
No pictures. No anything. Just, I saw the movie in the 50s. Paint the new one.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. So you did it all through the night. That's what you just came up with, and that was it?
24-hour painting.
Oh my gosh.
I had to conceive it, show him
Yeah.
a comp, and then paint the finish. Jeez. And the guy came knocking at the door. 9 a.m. There it was. I was painting in acrylics and stuff.
Yeah.
And people know, they've heard this story before, but I live 100 miles from LA now. I live in at the time I was a 100-mile drive from the studio to my house. When the guy picked up the painting and it went under the glass to scan, it stuck to the painting. It stuck to the.
Oh no, because it wasn't dried yet.
It wasn't even dry, and it was.
Oh my gosh.
So that's how fast I had to paint it.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I got a funny story. The first time I ever did, I was asked to illustrate something for the Wall Street Journal. It was this very similar thing. They said, we really want you to do, and I was hoping to get a job from them for a while. It was like early on in my career. And they said, we need this, 4 characters from these different shows painted, and we need it tomorrow morning. And it was like 5 at night in the afternoon. So I was like, oh.
There you go.
So I was like, okay. And it's going to be in print the next day. Like, that's how fast they're printing it and putting it everywhere. And I did the sketch in a couple hours. So I worked really fast on the sketch. They approved it. And then I just started painting all night long, just painting and painting and painting and painting. And this is a little bit different because all I had to do was email the final art to them. I didn't, so that was easier. But in the morning, it was like around 6 in the morning, and they needed it in about 30 minutes. I finally finished. I email it, send it. I'm like, whew. And they're like, great, this looks awesome. Thank you so much for your hard work. Okay, great. Later that day, I see the Wall Street Journal. It's out already, and they printed my sketch.
Oh.
They accidentally used the wrong file and printed my sketch instead of I mean, how do you make that mistake? Like, there's a huge difference between the sketch and the final. So I killed myself all night for it, and they just they were like, "Oh, we're so sorry." And it was like, it was terrible.
So you told them that they made the mistake, and
oh yeah,
is that?
Yeah, at first I thought, did they like my sketch better than my painting? And
yeah, I would think.
Yeah, but it was totally an accident. They literally sent the wrong file, and it got printed, and so it was just a huge mistake. That was pretty terrible. So that was my first full page for the Wall Street Journal was a sketch that wasn't even that great anyway. It was just like an idea. So, but it happened.
That's similar to the thing, because I had nothing. All they said was, "Did you ever see the movie from the 50s?" And I said, "Yeah," and that's what I had to go on. I didn't know who was in it, how it was different, who it was staged, nothing.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
I realized
I know
went back in my mind.
Yeah.
To the 50s, and I didn't have anybody, no portrait to paint, so I didn't have a likeness to some impression of what the movie's going to be about. I didn't have anything. The only thing I knew was, it's the only thing I thought was, it's going to be in the snow, and blah, blah, because that's what the one in the 50s was. So I painted that. My wife took a picture of me because I didn't have any scrap. So that's my bod and everything. And there's nothing else in the picture.
I think I know. It's all like this lighting, right? Like it's like this lighting coming off. Like, I think I know what that image is. Yeah, that's crazy. One night for that.
Everybody does know that image.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And I loved, because what I learned from doing that is people made up what they thought it was about.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about anything, literally. It was about nothing.
Yeah.
So everybody has their own idea about what this is about. And I thought, open-ended painting.
Yeah.
It can be whatever the viewer wants it to be.
Yeah.
And
that's so cool.
That gave me a new kind of approach to my work. Was I didn't have to tell the whole story. I just painted the feeling.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man, because you're right. Like it's like a movie trailer that tells the whole movie in the trailer. I don't need to see that movie now. The whole thing's there.
Exactly.
So it's pretty cool that that's that's actually really really smart thinking and really inspiring. For me personally for because a lot of times I get that struggle or frustration from an art director. They'll tell me, "Hey, we have this image that we want you to paint," and I only have a lot of my deadlines are 2 days usually, and it's a lot of pressure to like try to come up with something that you think is going to tell the story quickly. But I I love that, and I love that idea of less is more. I think it can be more impactful when doing an image, because the image is supposed to supposed to be meant just to draw you in, and then you read the article later. You'll figure out what it's about,
Mhm.
or you'll watch the movie and you'll see what it's about. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool way to look at it. Um, when you're doing a project like Star Wars posters, for example, with something such a huge um, you know movie company, and just basically it's so huge and so iconic and epic already. Did you ever feel like just I would feel so much pressure like when I'm creating this movie, like that's basically everyone in the world's going to see it, everyone's going to see this poster, and everyone knows and loves these characters so much, and it just seems like a huge responsibility to. I mean, I would like to think all illustration you have that responsibility, but for movies like that, did you feel that like a little bit weirded out by it, or were you just like, just painting another poster, you know?
Nope, because George Lucas was the director,
Yeah.
and I saw the movie, and I made up what I wanted to about it. I had two friends of mine that posed for me for Han and Leia, and I photographed them. I painted them, and that became what is now known as the circus poster.
Oh, okay.
It was George's favorite poster of all time.
That's awesome.
And no, I just painted what I had, like I always did. So it didn't bother me because
Yeah.
he was happy with everything I did. Did you know? Like I painted the cover for his biography.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah. It's
In
awesome.
his biography, he explains that he wanted to be an illustrator.
Hmm.
So when he saw my work, he never turned back.
Yeah.
He wanted everything I did. And that's why I did every poster for Star Wars subsequently, because he loved what I did so much. And he bought, which this was really grand for me, because I was a poor artist at the point.
Yeah.
He bought every Star Wars poster I painted and every Indiana Jones poster I painted.
Oh, that's awesome. So he owns all the originals.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
really cool. Because I finally could feed my family. It was a delight.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, hey, I also painted George Lucas for a movie poster, and unlike you, I am pretty sure he hated it.
Oh,
I was asked to paint a movie poster for the documentary called "The People versus George Lucas,"
oh,
and and
what?
it's actually kind of a funny documentary, but it's about the people who are so obsessed with Star Wars that they get mad with George for changing certain things.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
it's like a documentary about fans that are crazy, basically. So I did this cover of George Lucas, and it's caricatured, but he's painted very realistic, and he's standing on the cover with his arms folded. I think, yeah, I think his arms are folded, and then there's fans on each side of him with their knees they're on their knees, like basically begging him to change things or whatever. But I'm sure he saw that one and was like, oh yeah, come on now, seriously. Probably didn't have the same effect.
Well, you're kind of talking about what happened to Star Wars. All the fans are so dedicated; they think they know better than the people who made the movie. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
So I know that they're really stupid.
That's funny. Yeah, I did. It's funny. I did an acrylic of George, like a side profile of him, and it's a pretty big painting. It's mostly but it's a side view of him, with his hair's all huge, and it's very detailed. And I was at the San Diego Comic-Con, and I was selling prints of my work, and some guys came up to my table that work for George at ILM.
Oh.
And they said, "Oh, you're the artist that painted this?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh man, I bought prints. I bought this print from you years ago. I have it hanging in my office." And he goes, "George hates it." So I was like, "Well, that's a bummer." I love George, but it was just how I painted him. I don't know. But it was funny to hear from the inside. They're like, "Oh, but we love it. We love it though." So that's hilarious. Well, speaking of, I don't want to keep you too long. It's already almost been an hour chatting with you. But I do want to be able to share some fan art with you because people did some drawings of you. And so I thought,
of me?
Yeah, of you. Yeah.
Oh, I've changed.
So I'll switch my screen here so you can see, and we'll show you some fan art. So let's see here. So tell me if you see this.
Oh, yeah, that ain't me. I don't know who that is. Okay.
All right, so this is a drawing that Adam Hamilton did of you.
Oh.
So I want to make sure you're seeing the right. So it's the brown with the like marker, like sketch looking. Just want to make sure you're seeing the right page.
Yeah, and I still have a beard.
Yeah. Yep.
That's not my complexion. That's the beard. Cool.
So let's go to the next one. So this is a you with Oscar the Grouch.
That's not me, but that's Oscar.
This is by Hosian. Hosian Reservoir did this. I love the honesty. It's awesome. Here's a sketch by Jacques Lamanier. I don't know if you can see that. He doing a play on your name, Drew. It's Drew Barrymore and you.
Oh, I see. I get it.
So it says Drew. I did indeed. So clever, Mr. Jacques Lamanier.
Okay, wonderful.
Here's a.
Wow, geez, somebody overworked.
Yeah, this is a portrait by Adriano Ducotto. I do not think I said that name right, but forgiveness is a virtue. Here's a fun sketch. This is by Mikel Nolamas. I think it says, with deepest admiration.
My goodness.
So obviously,
guess you're in my real head.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that perspective. It's nice. It's an interesting angle. Here's this one was fun. This is by Pierre Prigent. I think that's you as Hellboy. I think.
Oh really? Okay. I thought maybe it was the devil.
I think it's supposed to be you as Hellboy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did all the Hellboy things.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, that's one thing that I'll talk to you about that in a second. I'm going to remember Hellboy because I wanted to ask you about that. But
Okay.
here's one by David Watson. I think it's sort of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi vibe, I think.
Yeah. You know, what on Halloween, that's who I dress up like, is Obi-Wan.
Makes sense. I guess you could pull that off.
Well, apparently I did for him.
Yeah. So this is by Dominic Zeilinger, and I think he drew me in the background with my new baby.
Oh, wonderful. He works fast.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's funny. This did happen very quickly. So.
Well, is that supposed to be you?
Yeah, it's supposed to be me in the background.
Oh.
Of the baby.
Oh. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is by Ken Coogan. It's kind of a cool style.
Yeah. It's very nice.
This is by Kurt Urbane. And
it's a nice one too.
Yeah. Yeah, this one I think looks like pastels maybe. And this one is by Sam King Davis. And this is I think he's promoting his podcast on my podcast. He does a podcast called Famous When I'm Dead, and it's like a new podcast. I think he interviews artists and that sort of a thing. But there you go. The podcast went by.
I feel like it. I got 6 doctors now.
Oh no. And this one's really cool. I think the style's pretty interesting. This is by.
That looks the most like me.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Yeah. This is by Nuno Ribeiro. But this is a really interesting style. It's pretty cool. It's nice.
Yeah. Well, you would like that. Oh, and the next one as well, because they're like your technique and your style.
Oh yeah, sometimes a little bit. This is one by Blake Loosely.
Gee, none of these guys have I ever heard their names before. I guess they're going to be famous when they're dead. Yeah. This one. This is by Juan Gastelum. I think he's doing a Face the Truth movie poster with Drew. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but and this is by Lars Eric Robinson. He did this one really quick this morning. I think he wanted to do. Told me he did it really fast because he wanted to show you one. And yeah, and I real quick I have to apologize because he sent me a sketch of Agnes Groszuska from a couple weeks ago. She's an amazing artist that I had on my podcast. So this is a sketch that he did of her, but I forgot about it. I missed it. So anyways, here it is now, and Drew Struzan gets to see it. So there you go, Lars. So there you go. There's some fan art for you. It's kind of fun. But really quick, I just wanted to say about the Hellboy thing. Is it true? I don't know if it was in the documentary, if I read it somewhere, but for some reason they didn't use the artwork that you did, and then I'm blanking on the director's name now of Hellboy, and Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, Guillermo. Yeah, but then he ended up fighting to use it for promotion or something like that. Is that true? Like something like they were weird with the art or something?
Yeah, you don't have it at all, but I think I know what you're talking about. When he was in Europe and he was releasing the movie there too.
Okay.
It was before a bunch of, what do you call those guys? See, I don't know what I deal with. The people, news people.
Oh, like the media or whatever. Media.
Yeah, media.
Oh, okay.
We were in a room, and he was introducing. He was showing what I did and explaining his movie. And one guy stood up and said, "You really going to use that? That looks too much like art."
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, excuse me, it is art.
Yeah.
You know? And that's funny because it was in Europe, where you think they would be smarter than that. You know?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And the artwork is just epic. It's so beautiful, and I really love that one poster. So there's the one poster that's, I think it was the first one you did with all the characters, and it's kind of like a straight on pose. But then there's the poster, the one I really like is Hellboy. He's smaller with all the big flames around him and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like a big robot monster or something behind him or something like that. But that's awesome. That was like such a cool image for a poster. But I thought it was so cool that he, was such a big fan of your work that he's like, oh, they don't want to use a poster, but I'm gonna have you do one anyways. Like I think I saw that in that documentary it might be what I saw it from, but
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I mean, it's just a testament to just how much, he's one of the most creative directors, and that's got to be so awesome knowing that he is super inspired by your work as well. That's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're very, very good friends.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. And like I said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you're a busy guy and everything.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, you gotta play with the cats then, or.
My wife took him out of the room, so.
Oh, okay. So that brings me to a good question. I think is, now that you are retired, do you still find time to be able to draw and create still? Are you still just even for yourself being able to do that?
Well, the quick answer is no.
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 Like, you just don't. You're just kind of.
I got a bad case of gout. I was in bed for about 3 weeks, and I couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
And when I finally got up, I have 6 doctors now, and they're trying to fix me. But that's aside from something really great happened to me. I'm sure you're just like me. You're hoping that sometime in your life, people will begin to appreciate what you're doing and how well you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a guy, I met him. He came and we had dinner together at my favorite restaurant, and we were just talking and stuff and having a good time. He was getting to know me, and unbeknownst to me. And when we were walking out, he was saying, he was explaining to me how he had, I've said too many words now, I don't have any more.
No, you were saying how you were at dinner with this guy and he was.
Yeah, I know what I was saying.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how he put it to me.
Oh, okay.
A Comic-Con. He had all the actors from Star Wars. They would go with him to his Comic-Cons. He had 6 Comic-Cons. He owned them. And he came to me. Who's this? The woman star in Star Wars?
Carrie Fisher?
Yeah, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
She had died. And he came to me and he needed a replacement for Carrie Fisher. Not one that's going to look like her, but just someone else that was as important as she was. So I said, I don't know. I'm busy at the time. That's when I was busy. So he said, that's okay. I just wanted to let you know more about who I am and what I do. So, a year later he came back and was still ready to do it. So I said, well, I'll do it and see how it goes. Because, you hear me now, I don't talk very well. And I stay alone most of my life. 50 years, I was in my studio and I painted and there was nobody else in the studio. And I didn't talk at all. So that year passed by and I said, okay, I'll try it, So when he had his next, I forget the word now. When you go and meet the people.
Oh, the Comic-Con thing?
Yeah. Comic.
Yeah.
So I did one and it was, it doesn't sound like it now to everybody listening to this, but I came to an enlightenment that people liked and saw what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I never talked to anybody and nobody told me what they thought of my work. So,
I mean, okay. So you're saying that
Comic-Con, the people would stand in line just for me to sign a poster. And they would come up to me and say, oh, my son loves your work. I'm teaching him to be an artist, stuff like that. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And it turned out that I was getting really an education about what people thought of me and my work.
Yeah.
And it's been really different. But then what happened was he was building a gallery in Texas for my work. Just my work.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
the gallery is finished now, and I've sent 500 pieces of art to him. All the work I've did over 50 years, he has there, and they're all for sale.
That's for 500 pieces. That's crazy.
Well,
wow,
I'm busy.
Yeah, that's amazing though. That's so awesome.
So there's this huge thing. It's like I'm not dead,
but
famous.
But you were shocked that there was lines of people. I mean,
yeah.
That's crazy to me. Because like I said, even when I briefly went to art school for a couple years, but I was already working as a professional when I went, and I went for a couple years and just decided to keep working professionally. But even when I was in school, it was all, the illustration classes were all about drewstruzan. Like I remember in the illustration classroom was just all like tons of posters that you had done and everything.
Where did you go?
The American Academy of Art in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of good illustrators come from that school. Alex Ross went to that school.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just find that, you must, it's interesting too, because for a lot of your career, there wasn't this social media that we've got going on now, with everyone can instantly see things and connect and share things. And it wasn't like people could just, if they didn't know anything about illustration, they could look up Harry Potter, get on Google, who painted that? And then your name would pop up. There was that time before where you didn't know. You just had to really be an art nerd to know who certain artists were, I think. But I find that interesting that you didn't realize that That's pretty. It must have been a crazy experience then when you showed up and there's like just a line of people.
Yeah.
Your hand must have got tired from signing things.
No, that's all I've done.
Oh, you got like a, Dwayne the Rock Johnson hand. You're just like, yeah, no problem.
It was easy, and I was getting paid for every signature I gave. So.
Oh yeah, it's like bring more.
Bring
Yeah,
'em.
yeah, that's so awesome. That's really cool.
And we've done well. We traveled around because once I did one, I said that was fun. I liked that. It was interesting.
Yeah.
But then, at the same time, I was having fun with the people and everything. And then the last one I did, I got sick during the con, and I had to go to the hospital.
Mm.
So it kind of put an end to that. But then,
oh yeah, that's not good. Huh. It's, man, well, especially now with everything going on, there's not going to be any of those cons going on, but not many people are going anywhere right now.
Mhm.
So now in your retirement and everything, is it mostly just, I'm just trying to imagine like what it would be like after so many years of those kind of deadlines and all that, like, how do you just sit, like, okay, let me put it this way. I have an artist friend of mine who he's an amazing artist. He does awesome work. He's in Rolling Stone magazine a lot. And I was talking with him recently, and he told me that, he thinks he's going to retire sometime soon. And he said, when I retire, I'm never drawing again. And I was like, what do you mean you're never drawing again? He's like, yep, never again. It's done. It's over. It's just done. And it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that idea.
Well, I didn't say I will never drawing again.
Yeah. I'm not saying with you.
Working for the movie industry again.
Yeah.
No, what I'm doing is what I want.
Yeah. So I
do draw and paint.
See, that's what I was getting to is, so you do still draw and paint, but you get to do whatever you want to do. And that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. I paint my family. I paint beautiful women. I paint endangered species.
Oh, cool.
It's whatever I like and turns me on and I think is beautiful and other people will think is beautiful. That's what I do.
See, that's what I like to hear.
No.
I thought you were saying that you're just like, you're not, drawing anymore. And I was like, I don't understand.
The retirement comes from
yeah,
not working for the business, not working for the movie industry anymore.
Yeah.
The last thing I did was the triptych for How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
That was the last thing I did. And I haven't done any more work for the movies.
Do they still try? They still like?
No, they don't. It's funny how the news spreads so fast.
Oh yeah.
He's retired. Okay. Everybody knew it.
Oh
so
man.
They don't call. But that gave all the people the right to try and copy what I did.
Yeah.
That's coming from.
Yeah.
Because I could hear it echoing in the hall now. Can you do a Drew then?
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah. I can definitely. I've seen it. I've definitely recognized that. So, so do you? That must be nice though for you. I mean, to be able to at this time, to be able to just do whatever you want, whenever you want, and then see all these people out there in the illustration world just trying to be Drew. That's got to be interesting.
Well, I don't look at it.
You don't look at. You're like, yeah.
No, I don't want to see what they're doing.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm done with
fun.
it.
That's
I,
fun.
I'm painting pictures that I want to paint.
Yeah,
And I'm getting something really wonderful for it because I've sent all the work I did for the movies because kept I had the copyright to everything I painted for the movies. And so all those 500 paintings went to Texas and they're all for sale. So you can buy that work that has inspired people for all these years.
that's awesome.
It's all ready to go, you know.
Where
So
in Texas is this?
it's in Dallas? No.
I mean, well, I'm sure people can look it up.
I forget. Yeah. So I should give a plug to he built the gallery of my work. It's all there. It's all for sale. And it's online too. So you can just go online to now I'm losing the other word. What's the name? Galactic Gallery.
Galactic Gallery. Okay.
And you can
That's
just
awesome.
look up Galactic Gallery in Texas and it'll come up and you see all the work that's there and you can buy any one of them you like.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or all of them if you wish.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And
Man.
then I don't have to work again.
Yeah. That's so awesome.
But the work I'm doing is the work I love still. You know, I paint my family, you know,
Yeah.
my grandkids and everything. So
That's great. What you are you do you with your work that you're doing now, are you doing because I know, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but with your more like your illustration style, I think it seemed like you did like a lot of airbrushing with like color pencil and then acrylic and ink. It seemed like you use a lot, like every medium basically. It's but like when you're doing your work now, do you still work in those same kind of techniques, or are you kind of just, you know,
no,
no, yeah.
I went back to sort of more classical. I paint with the wells now.
Oh, cool.
So, and different techniques. Yeah.
That's great, man. I would, man. Do you have? I would love to see that stuff. I love oils. That's
Yeah.
That's I have. I don't. It's kind of funny. I early on in my career, I was working with acrylics a lot for deadlines and illustration, and I kept having people telling me that I should work digitally, and that's going to be the new thing. And I was against working digitally.
And
and
know
then,
that's why I knew it was dead.
Yeah, and I ended up trying on one illustration. Like I'll try because I never had really painted digitally before, and then I realized real quickly, like, wow, I can teach myself how to paint this way and make the deadlines quicker, and still make it feel like a painting. And in my mind, it's like it's all going to be only seen in print anyways. These are quick deadlines. You know what? I'm going to try to give this a go, and then so in a sense, I feel like at that point I retired my traditional work for only private commissions or my personal work. So I only work in oils for my own work, or if someone wants to hire me to do a painting for something. But for editorial and illustration, I do all that digital now. It just makes more sense with the turnarounds, and you know, and even still, there's illustrators out there today. They're still working traditionally on some crazy deadlines, and it's amazing to me. But I'm like, nah, they don't pay enough, as far as I'm concerned, for me to kill myself on a traditional piece when I can just paint it digitally and in like, but it still takes forever digitally for me. So
I never did one digitally.
Yeah,
no.
it's a different. It takes some, you know, hinking around and everything, but but I think that it's cool to see that you're still, playing around with, yeah. I'm curious to see it. I would love to see some of the new stuff, man. Now you got my curiosity. Um,
The
that's
last
cool.
the last oil painting I did for the industry was see, now I lose the names because it was Robin and Marion. You know that movie?
Robin and Marion. I'm not sure actually.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
before your time. I painted it in oils,
oh, okay.
and then they wanted me to make changes on it. It's like,
Oh, no.
well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So that's was the last thing I did was Robin and Marion. They they wanted a little change on it, and because it was in oils and it was on canvas and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I never went back. That's when I picked up the acrylics and the colored pencils because I can do it faster.
Yeah.
And, it was done in 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, that's I can't imagine on a piece like one of those movie posters. Have you ever had that though, where they come in and, oh, hey, we actually want the entire expression changed completely? Or are you
No,
just like, nope, that's not happening?
no, I never
Because
had.
because I think what's happened with the digital thing now, where a lot of artists are working digitally now. Now art directors and editors can be like, oh, just change it. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like I still painted that, like, oh, it doesn't matter, just get rid of it. It's definitely a negative in one way, because I think in some ways before with traditional painting, they're like, oh, no, it's fine the way it is, you know. But like now it's almost all too easy to just quickly say, oh, well, like, I mean, it happens to me all the time where, oh, this is really good. We like it a lot, but could you make the person have their mouth open more, or and their eyes looking that direction? Oh, and while we're at it, can we let's take that hat off and give them a different hairdo? And it's like, dude, it's due in 10 minutes. Like, what are you talking about? But
Well,
that kind of thing.
I was afraid that that's where it was going, and it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, you got out on top. You got out on top, man. That's for sure. Um, but I just want to say again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it. And again, like your work is such an inspiration, and it's going to continue to be an inspiration, I think, for many many years for so many artists, because it like what you manage to do with your work is so timeless. Um, and I think that really, you know, I'm sure that this is already being done, but there should be like a Drew Struzan illustration class in art schools, because there's so much to learn about your composition, your lighting, uh, and just the other thing it's impressive is just the where to direct the eye, where you want the viewer to look right away, and the storytelling. So to me, your work in a whole is the whole package. Um, so I just wanted to let you know that from little me to the guy that got on top real quick, real fast. He did it the right way.
That's
So
very generous of you and very, very kind. It's it's just it's all I can do. It's all I ever wanted to do.
yeah,
And I came to the point of saying, listen, what am I really trying to do? When I started to make a living off of it, I thought that's what I was doing.
yeah,
And then I said, I'm not just doing it to make a living. I'm doing it to make people happy. I'm doing it to make beautiful things. I am doing it to make art.
yeah,
And I realized, wait a minute, I just said why I'm an artist.
yeah,
I wanted to speak the truth. I want it beautiful. I want it timeless. I want people to be made happy. That's why I do it.
That's
and
awesome.
Why I still do it.
That's cool, man.
So that's simply who I am now.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think that is an awesome and positive way to wrap this up. And again, thank you so much. This is I hope I'll get to meet you one day. And again, it's
Where do you live?
I live in Chicago, but I might be coming to California at some point.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah, I would love to meet you in person. And again, I'm excited to be able to judge this show for Society of Illustrators. You, CF Payne, and man, there's a whole list of people that are pretty awesome artists. So I'm honored to be in the company of you guys. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for listening and supporting the podcast, and thank you for the artists for submitting the drawings and that sort of a thing. Until next time, we'll see you guys later, and don't forget to check out the Galactic Gallery to check out Drew's work in Texas. I'm jealous. I'm very far away from Texas. I'd love to see it myself, and definitely check that out. And what were you gonna say?
I'm far away from Texas too.
Just send all the work as far away as possible, and everybody buy it. That's awesome. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you very, very much.
You want answers? The truth shall set you free. I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.